The Game Awards happened last night, and if you didn't have 3.5 hours like I didn't, then chances are you may have missed something. So let's go ahead and take a look at some of the biggest announcements and some of the things that you have to look forward to. Hey, I'm Sam with Busy Dad Gaming. I help busy dads find what Xbox games to play so they can relax and go back to their families recharged. Avengers Endgame, the Game Awards were not. The Yoda reference will make sense here in a moment. So if you were like me, you didn't have 3.5 hours to spend watching the entire Game Awards, so I'm going to do my best to distill some of the bigger announcements that came out here for Xbox and hopefully save you a little time in the process. Now as I go through this list, it is not in any particular order. First up, we have Senuas Saga Hellblade 2, and I'll be candid, I have not played the first one all the way through. It's one of those where hopefully I have some more time. I've started it at least, but you know, with games coming out at the frequency that they have, just haven't had a ton of time. So maybe I'll get to it in July. We'll see what actually happens before the February wave happens. But overall, this game looked amazing, and I had a tough time seeing the difference between cinematics and in-game footage. So definitely high fidelity game. I'm really looking forward to this one. Next up, we have Suicide Squad Kill the Justice League, and Flash is actually one of my favorite DC characters, so it'll be interesting to see what they actually do with him being a bad guy in this one, but please, for the love of God, don't squander it. Now this game is slated for 2022 sometime, so we'll see more sooner than later, I hope, but definitely looking forward to it. I did love the Arkham games. Next up, we have Star Wars Eclipse, and I am a huge Star Wars nerd, and I love learning about the lore in Star Wars, the Jedi and the Sith, and hell, I even have my own lightsaber hilt, so go figure on that one. Now, the game is set during the High Republic era, and if you've been following Star Wars over the last year or so, High Republic era takes place 200 years before Luke Skywalker and is part of the huge initiative with the books and the comics and the audio and audiobooks and what have you. I'm really curious to see what this game actually turns out to be, but as of right now, it was just a cinematic. There's no timelines, there's no platforms, there's no nothing. So it's just a wait and see game. So we'll see what actually happens with this game, but it is something that has me curious. Next up, we have Alan Wake 2, and this explains the Alan Wake remake that we just recently had, and it's going after a survivor horror game, so we'll see how it actually pans out. But this game's aiming for 2023, and this will be only a current gen system game. It's not going to be cross-gen, so sorry Xbox One. Next up, we had Wonder Woman, and this game actually came as a complete surprise, and I believe this is Wonder Woman's first game that she's headlining, but I could be wrong, but correct me if I am. But it was just a cinematic trailer, so we're just, again, going to have to wait and see on this one. But there was no gameplay, there was no timeline, there was not even platforms attached to it, so again, kind of like how Star Wars was, we're just going to have to wait and see what happens there. Next up, we have Sonic Frontiers. Now, I don't keep up on Sega properties that much anymore, but apparently there were a lot of rumors around this particular game over the past year or so where Sonic is diving into his first open world game here, and it should be releasing sometime at the end of 2022. It at least has me curious to see how they implement Sonic and how the open world will actually interact with that style of gameplay. But again, we'll just have to kind of wait and see as 2022 rolls on to see more gameplay and see how the game actually progresses. And that brings me to The Expanse, a Telltale series. Now, I absolutely love the show, and that actually got me into the books, and season 6 is coming out on Amazon Prime, so I'm really stoked to go through those 6 episodes to see how the series ends. Now, with this particular game, I'm curious to see how it fits into the Expanse universe, so that's, again, just kind of a wait and see, because there wasn't a release date, there was no platform announced, but it has me curious to see how it integrates itself into the Expanse universe. Next up, we have Arc Raiders. Now, Arc Raiders is some kind of action game. I'm not exactly sure the overall context because it didn't really provide too much, but now the game itself looked pretty cool overall. I'm not too sure about the song choice, but it is going to be a current gen only game. So again, sorry Xbox One. For this game, it had a release date set in 2022, so that gives us quite a while to hurry up and wait on this one. Next up, we have Star Trek Resurgence. Now, Star Trek games have really been hit or miss over the years, and I still remember playing clear back in the DOS days, Star Trek Judgment Rights. Yeah, I actually had to go look that one up because I couldn't remember the name. Now, the studio is a lot of ex-Telltale folks, so it'll be interesting to see how they craft the gameplay and the narrative. It looks like it's set in the next generation timeline, so thank you God it's not sitting in the Kelvin timeline, because that's kind of a hot mess. Star Trek Resurgence is slated to come out in the spring of 2022 on Xbox, so I'm kind of curious to see how that one plays out, what kind of story and narrative driven direction they end up going with that one. Next up is Crossfire X, and this is a game that's been teased for quite a while. The multiplayer, I think it's still in beta anyway, has been out for quite some time, and this is the campaign portion of that particular game. Now, this particular campaign is looking to come out in February of 2022, so just add another one onto the pile in February. Feb is kind of looking to be the next holiday season, so to speak, with the sheer amount of games that are coming out. But I'm actually looking forward to this game a little bit more now that it's been revealed and I saw some actual gameplay from the campaign. Last but not least, we have Elden Ring. Now, Elden Ring is the newest game coming from Software, a game that's going to be very Souls-like from what I understand, but it's going to be far more open and expansive. Now, I haven't been the biggest fan of Souls games in the past. I did kind of dive into Sekiro a little bit, but overall, maybe this game will break that streak, who knows, but this one's slated for February 25th, so again, add it to the list in February, and we'll see how many games I actually make it through. Now, there were even more games that were announced during the Game Awards, both during the pre-show and the show itself, and there is a lot of games coming out in 2022. I'm kind of scared because this is just going to make my backlog explode even more than it already has, and honestly, that's a great problem to have. It's really a great time to be a gamer right now. So one thing I will end up mentioning is the Game Award. The game of the year that ended up winning was It Takes Two, which I'm going to try to get my wife into. We'll see how that ends up going, but that's a co-op game that I hear is an amazing game, so I'm looking forward to playing that with her. And then the Player's Choice Award was, shockingly, Halo Infinite. And so far, I'm really enjoying that campaign, and I'm about a good 10 hours into it, so we'll see how the story continues to progress, but so far, it has me hooked. Now make sure to click on the video that is recommended for you, and I'll see you out there.